What really happens when we die? It is the oldest, most universal question in human history. Every culture, religion, and scientific discipline has grappled with it. Yet it remains the ultimate frontier, a boundary we cannot cross and return from with absolute proof. Today, the debate over death fractures into two distinct camps. On one side, we have strict scientific materialism, the belief that death is the abrupt, definitive end of our existence. On the other, we have the enduring belief, supported by thousands of reported near-death experiences, that consciousness somehow survives the death of the physical brain. Let's explore the divide.
From the perspective of strict scientific materialism, the answer is incredibly straightforward, if somewhat stark. You are your brain. Neuroscientists can map your thoughts, emotions, and memories to specific chemical reactions and electrical impulses firing across billions of synapses. When a brain suffers trauma or disease, we see the mind change. Memories fade, personalities alter. Therefore, science argues, consciousness is entirely a product of biology. In this view, dying is like unplugging a computer. When the heart stops pumping oxygenated blood, brain activity rapidly declines. Within minutes, the electrical storms that make up your thoughts and identity cease. There is no pain, no awareness, and no darkness. It is simply a return to the state of non-existence you experienced before you were born. Lights out. The end.
But not everyone is satisfied with that answer. And the challenge to materialism isn't just coming from ancient spiritual traditions, it is increasingly coming from the medical field. Thanks to modern resuscitation medicine, we are bringing people back from the brink of death more frequently than ever before. And many of these survivors return with remarkably similar stories. We call them near-death experiences, or NDEs. Patients whose hearts have stopped and whose brainwaves have flatlined report feeling a profound sense of peace. They describe leaving their bodies, floating near the ceiling, and watching doctors work on them. They report moving toward a warm, loving light or encountering deceased loved ones. For strict materialists, these experiences are the final, desperate hallucinations of a dying brain, a flood of neurochemicals like endorphins and DMT released to ease the trauma of death.
But there is a lingering problem. In several highly documented medical studies, patients who were clinically dead have accurately described conversations and events in the operating room that they could not possibly have seen or heard. How can a flatlined brain form coherent, highly structured memories? This brings us to the hard problem of consciousness. Science knows how the brain processes information, but we still don't know why it feels like something to be alive. We don't know how physical matter creates subjective experience. Because of this gap, an alternative theory has emerged. What if the brain doesn't produce consciousness, but rather filters it? Think of a television set. If you smash the TV, the picture disappears and the sound stops. A materialist would say the broadcast is dead, but the signal, the invisible waves carrying the show, is still in the room. The TV was just the receiver.
Some physicists, philosophers, and spiritual thinkers argue that consciousness is fundamental to the universe, much like gravity or electromagnetism. In this view, our brains are biological receivers tuning into the frequency of consciousness. When the body dies, the receiver breaks, but the signal, the true you, continues onward, returning to a broader state of existence. So, what really happens? Are we biological machines, destined for a quiet, dreamless sleep when the battery finally runs out? Or are we something more? Sparks of a universal consciousness, briefly experiencing life through a human lens, waiting to be released back into the vast unknown.
Perhaps the beauty of the human experience lies in this very mystery. It forces us to find meaning not in knowing what comes next, but in how we choose to live right now. Until the day we cross that threshold for ourselves, the debate will continue.